May the 31st, the last day of May. Tomorrow is June the 1st, 2016. Now, I don't speak perfect English, I know that. I apologize. I know I'm the only person on the planet who ever made a video and doesn't speak perfect English, and therefore you can't trust anything or believe anything I say because I don't speak perfect English, and I might have a slur or an accent, blah, 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 blah. I don't got bling bling all around me. We got a live Geiger counter. There's a live Geiger counter. And 5 becquerels in your food, you throw it away. In Germany, if this lady had her way, you would eat fuel rods like popsicle sticks. Here's a sample of what the hell stuff that she's going to spew up tonight. And as the story progresses, you are probably going to chew all your toenails off because your fingernails will be gone in about 4, 3, 2. There we go.
Well, in terms of the short-term health risks, the Japanese government did the right thing in moving the population away, because the most dangerous bit about it, if you like, was the iodine, which has a very short half-life. So within 8 days, half of the iodine release will have decayed. And within 3 months, it's all gone from the environment.
Now, what she's talking about is Fukushima. You'll never know it, but I'm not kidding you. And so this is Unit 4 in Fukushima, a little skit I put together. It's got no audio. It's only 23 seconds long. But you see the hole in the building on your right-hand side of the front of the building here? Keep your eye on that. And this building was 10 stories high. The reactors and fuel pools were all above the floor, above this crazy guy walking around inside of Unit 4. Nobody knows who he is. I got footage of him coming up later on the night in all kinds of these reactors. It's the weirdest damn thing ever. He's most likely dead. Boy, now I can assure you, you can't survive in that environment. Period. That's why the robots are dying. Yet, Kathleen Higley will tell you, just like Jerry Thomas. Now, Jerry Thomas is not some run-of-the-mill puke machine for the nuclear industry, no. No, not at all. She's in the United Kingdom, Wales, is an Imperial College, and she has an incredible, unbelievable, unimaginable education and resume. Makes me look like I'm not even worthy to be on this planet. She is heavily involved in academic studies, reviewing them. Think about this as you watch the video tonight. Professor this, professor that, collaborators. She's all over the place. External committees, internal committees, teaching activities. Look at the committees. She's actually on the research committees, surgery and cancer, health, safety and governance. Chairperson, the chairperson. Imperial College. She's also in the taking human samples. I can't even remember the name of it now because I don't know nothing about it. I had to research it all. Internal committees, postgraduate. Think about these accolades and positions that she's holding and held and are currently holding. Is shocking when you watch the video and understand what you're. And you'll be in. This is horror to actually understand. This person does the editorial boards, and reviewer of journals. The biobanking is a big one with this. Bizarre species on this planet. These species hasn't been described in any textbooks that I know about. And you got thyroid. She does the journal on radiological protection. She travels all over the place giving lectures and presentations. She has access to the Lords, the House of Commons, politicians, schools, and the communities where she set policies. And it's hard to believe everything I'm saying to you once you watch the videos, particularly the first one where she talked about iodine with an 8-day half-life and is gone in 3 months. She rolled that out over and over and over and over and over. That's why I used that particular example. No one's worried about the iodine. It's a tracer. It meant everything else came through. And it's shocking that someone like that can really actually truly exist. but we got the documentation and we actually got her. Now, when it comes to studies, I want you to listen to this next clip right now, and then we're going to get into Jerry's I got 6 minutes chopped there from the video you're looking at. And Grimes, Robin Grimes, I'm not going to cover him today. He's for another day. And these are people that are, we call them people, but they're, once you watch the video, you'll understand what I mean. These are not people, these are predators. And you'll understand that shortly. Here we go. Let's play that.
There was a small study that was set up using the same ultrasound equipment and the same skilled group of medics doing this, because a lot of the results come from the skill of the people operating the equipment and the technicality of the equipment themselves. And they actually found that the frequency of thyroid tumours and thyroid nodules was exactly the same. In fact, it was slightly lower in Fukushima prefecture than it was in the other 3 prefectures they looked at. But the caveat to that was only about 4,000 individuals who were studied. And that's not a big enough control group, really, to draw strong conclusions from.
Yeah. Was that published?
I'm reviewing it at the moment.
I'm reviewing it. See the way she rolled her lips that time? You see that there? That should frighten you. That should terrify you. That should horrify you. Just like the Geiger counter alongside of me should horrify you. I'm in British Columbia, Canada, Powell River. I got to go to court in about 10 days or so for doing exactly what I'm doing right now here in Canada. Now, what makes that so frightening is she's on all these boards, and the way she just said that thyroid in Fukushima was so low, it was higher than any other prefecture, is probably the most frightening statement imaginable when you look at her resume, when you look at the positions she's holding, you look at the cancer victims under her thumb, under her foot. She basically puts her foot on the cancer victim's throat. That's what this person does. And you can imagine who's going to win that particular wrestle, can't you? And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean with all of her academics and all her degrees and all the institutions and all the control and all the oversight, and the students must be terrified of her. They must be horrified of this person. Think about the fact that she's a reviewer on thyroid coming up, to put it in context of who this person actually truly is. And I noticed I didn't do my lighting right tonight. I can haywire that, fix that kind of. What have I got done to myself tonight? To the right, Dana. That way. There you go. Close enough. I guess it's you got to be a genius to work to see. I don't have the degree she got. If I had the degree she got, I would have all of that worked out really well by now, but I don't. So let's play her. And she's not going to come across as a genius in a few seconds, trust me. Even though you've seen all those degrees she got and all that education, all the positions she's holding. She's a sitting
Believe
professor.
it or not, I actually didn't know Robin until Fukushima happened, even though we work for the same institution. But Imperial College is a very big place, and he's on one site and I'm in another.
Now, the government in UK hired Robin, head of the university. He was an academic. You should watch the video. When you hear him say that, it'll freak you out. The way he says it, he's like a bully. So he's an academic, therefore he can't be wrong, is what he was trying to impress before she started talking.
And I didn't even know we had a Centre for Nuclear Engineering.
Because they're schizophrenic.
To a certain extent, the health effects are somewhat divorced from the engineering side and safety issues that we normally think of.
Now, she didn't know they had an engineering down there. But here's a study from her. So she's done a study without understanding the other side of the issue, is what she's saying right there in that conversation. Radiation exposure, 2016 study, is a time to reassess the real consequences. An acceptance of exposure to radiation is somewhat schizophrenic. And I'll look at the screen over here. We accept the use of high dose of radiation is still one of the most valuable weapons in our fight against cancer. No, we don't. 2% of the people get treated by radiation lived any longer than normal would have. 98% died. We bring our loved ones to hospitals where they kill them. 98% will die. Look up chemotherapy. You got to sign a piece of paper away your life before they can give you chemo. Chemo killed every dog it was ever used on, and every human, now for 50 years or so. At what point are we going to say, hey, stop killing us? After you watch this video, if you've never heard another narrative besides her nonsense, besides her disregard for life. And now, man-made radiation, I have to bring that up. Man, now, that whole study was about, shut up. Suck up the radiation, losers. I'll keep playing that video, otherwise I'll lose my spot. Let's chop it right there for 1 second. To really drive the point home, we have to go no further than look at the studies of Dr. Raymond Gilmedi. Dr. Raymond Gilmedi from Loveless Respiratory Research Institute in New Mexico. And I switched it. Oh, I was using camera 2 for the Geiger counter. Gotcha. Okay, well, these studies can't really see all the text because I got the Geiger counter is taking up that window. I'm not going to switch it. We'll never get back to it. Professional affiliations appointments. He's another guy. But he done all kinds of studies on beagle dogs and beagle puppies and curium isotope. But 144 beagle dogs, they all died. All the dogs died, period. Every time for 35 years. Dr. Raymond Gilmedi from Loveless Respiratory Research Institute. Funny how all the dogs died, but with her, nobody died is good for you. How interesting is that part of the conversation, I wonder? And so
Became involved in working with some of my Japanese colleagues in Fukushima and trying to explain the health effects. With what happened in Fukushima, it was not the same sort of accident as we'd seen post-Chernobyl.
So it's not the same accident as we've seen post-Chernobyl. A little jumpy on my vocals here tonight. Okay. Make sure I get the right clip when I come back. Chernobyl didn't have reactor cores on the roof. Jerry Thomas, by the way. Chernobyl didn't do this. Chernobyl was just one building. Fukushima was many buildings. You got Unit 1, this is many Chernobyls. Unit 2, many Chernobyls. It's completely destroyed. Unit 3, completely missing. All the fuel pools, reactor cores that were on the roof for 10 years are all gone. Everything is gone. That's Unit 4. But this building right here, Unit 3, TEPCO is going to shoot that through it. That don't even exist. And the fuel pools are up at the roof. You see up the roof? That's what number 4 originally looked like. They tore it all down. If number 4 looked like that even now, it'd still be stupid to say you can do that because it's not there. The fuel pools are gone. See? Look at the fuel pools, top of the roof. Look at the Taurus at the top of the roof. And then look at this building, number 4, after you tore it down. It looked like that. And look at number 3. How are you going to shoot something through that? So this is why the law is so important for you to understand what they're saying to you, the mockery that they're doing to you.
Not learnt, and it was clear from the reports that had come out from the WHO and from UNSCEAR that we had not learnt as a scientific community how to communicate risk. And
now think about those words. We had not learned to communicate risk. This is some arrogance you're talking about right now.
we said the one thing that we must never allow to happen again was for scientists to stand back and allow an awful lot of misinformation about the real effects of radiation following a nuclear accident to take hold.
Right, that's actually the Bill of Rights and Magna Cartas and the Constitutions all say that we got to hold you accountable. We got to be the checks and balances against you, not you holding your own accountable, which is what you just suggested.
The two accidents, as I said, are very different.
We don't care what you said. I just showed pictures of the actual reactors in Japan. So you're bullying people now where you're implying that you're the final say in the word. Instead of holding pictures up and saying, here's a reactor in Chernobyl, 1/3 the size, a 30% meltdown, stopped after 10 days. And here's Fukushima's 4 melted reactors, lost their entire inventories, still in a chain reaction. No, not go that route. Why do that?
The amount of radioiodine that came out of...
And so back to the radioiodine. Now, iodine is 10 times more 132, 30 times more 133, 31 times more iodine 129 from that chain reaction, this man-made chain reaction. This is why we have terrorist laws, and this is why we have nuclear waste sites.
Fukushima is considerably less than came out of...
And then thousands of the other isotopes. Iodine is a tracer.
Chernobyl, and the Japanese reacted very promptly and did what was necessary to reduce that dose still further. And the evidence that we have, because of the measures taken to reduce exposure to contaminated food, and because of the evacuation procedures and the...
Yeah, they shipped all the food into America. And Hillary Clinton signed a pact that they wouldn't check for radiation.
simple advice to not bring washing inside so you
Not bring your clothing inside.
didn't bring the contamination back in with you.
This was a plume after plume after plume, day after day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, being re-liberated by rain and fog and through the early morning dew. Houses down there with up to a sievert, 2 sievers. 5 sievers will kill you. In a couple of hours, you'll be dead for sure.
Reduce the risk to about 1% of the dose that we had seen in the evacuees from the Pripyat region in Chernobyl.
So she's saying that Chernobyl, 1/3 the size of 30% meltdown using graphite, not to mix oxide fuel like number 3, say, in Japan, that melted, completely disappeared, blew apart, spread the fuel rods all over the site. Chernobyl didn't do that. It was graphite. It blew it up and down the side of the building. These pieces were found a couple of 100 kilometers away of the fuel itself from the ejection of number 3 in particular. But number 1, 2, 3, and 4 detonated, blew up, and lost their inventories. And they had much more than Chernobyl could ever have, even if they didn't have reactor cores on the roof. So this person right off the bat, who has all these degrees, who's controlling all these people's lives with cancer and everything else, you got to really watch and listen to what's coming out.
Reduced the dose of radioiodine to the thyroid considerably compared with that.
See, that's ludicrous to even suggest it. It can't be proven. I can prove, and I have many, many times, how wrong that statement is in every sense of the word. That's just the beginning of it.
Chernobyl, thereby reducing the risk.
Thereby reducing the risk. Yeah, they got out there with butterfly nets and captured it before it escaped. Like radiation respects any border. They found it throughout the entire country, throughout Canada, within 3 to 4 days. The jet streams were actually real. It never stopped coming out of there. It's shocking what she just said.
And the recent reports that come from the WHO and from UNSCEAR.
WHO and UNSCEAR, and she's been part of those boards. And WHO and UNSCEAR is made up of 100 people. See, you got to realize how the radiation, I'm just going to split it right there, 119. And I'm going to play you a short clip, a 3-minute clip of Kathleen Higley. And now she's the Canadian version of this lady. I wasn't going to play that, but now I'm playing it, if I can find it. Just take 1 second, because I do so much of this, right? Here we go. I thought, I hoped, I prayed. I just got too much on my computer. Jerry. Yeah, I lost the game. I'll slow it down. There's John Boyce. She should be right there. I usually see her, see? Dots. Here in Canada.
So as I mentioned before, you have to wait for this bar. These are 20-second cycles. You have to. Whoa, that's really high, folks. At 1.2, you're to exit the area. That's 1.3. Now we have to wait for 5 of these cycles to know if it's actually. Okay, dangerous.
So this was a troll, a PR firm that went out and says he found all the radiation after Fukushima and tried to control the narrative. Now he attacks anybody who talks about Fukushima relentlessly. Just hang on a second. That was that guy there. I'm almost there. I got John Boyce, but I got no idea what I've done with that. So I'm going to have to give it up and keep going. Oh, there it is. I ran past it too many times. Here we go. Kathleen Higley. Just turn my audio off. And here we go. This is, she got the same qualifications as Jerry Thomas. Now listen to her talk about how the UNSCEAR and IRPA and Atomic Energy, all the radiological protection agencies are just a good old boys and girls club of freaks like Jerry Thomas and Kathleen Higley, like you're looking at right now. This is Kathleen Higley.
Catherine, you are one of the world experts in radiation. We talked about that at lunch today.
when I was trying to pull this talk together, not only will I sort of get a little philosophical about the impacts and the like and try to put things in context, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about who are these radiation experts that get trotted out in events like this, or that get to participate in various activities and analysis to make pronouncements about is something safe or not safe. And if you look, you'll see organizations that are often represented. The ICRP, International Commission on Radiological Protection, a premier organization. You'll see UNSCEAR and IRPA. So UNSCEAR is the United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation. IRPA, the International Radiation Protection Association. The IAEA and some of its folks, the International Atomic Energy Agency. Our own U.S. NCRP. And then there are a number of other organizations. So there's PAHO, there's the Health Physics Society, there's World Health Organization. All of these will bring in, as necessary, experts to speak to you on issues related to radiation protection, radiation safety, and impacts. But if you go a little deeper and you start looking at these organizations, the ICRP, for example, very well known. It's been operating nearly 100 years, not quite. Main commission, 10 people. It's got 5 standing committees. So it's 100-ish folks. I lead one of the 5 committees. If you look at the United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation that looked at the effects from Chernobyl, from Fukushima, from other areas, and that has about 30, roughly, countries that are represented in that group. If you start teasing through these pictures, you're going to see the same people on every one of those organizations. So the same people from ICRP are on UNSCEAR, they're in IRPA. If you look at the NCRP, again, the U.S. organization that advises the country on radiation protection issues, it's 100 people, a lot of gray-haired 100 people. And most of them are part of UNSCEAR, are part of IRPA, are part of ICRP, participate in IAEA. So the result, or the real world, is that there's not that many folks that really do radiation safety, radionuclide transport, dose calculations, all of this in the world. It's a pretty small club. And we wear 20 hats. Today I put on 3 pins, and I could put on a whole bunch more.
I bet you could.
Health Physics Society, ICRP, Certified Health Physicist. I've got NCRP on there. I've done IAEA. And so the point is, we're a small group. You should cherish us.
See, this is what makes these people so friggin' scary. There's 100 of them. These are the gatekeepers. These are the thugs of society. These are the people that... Let's play another one of these weird videos. Oh yeah, there was a guy up by the shed. I seen the shed up there. So what the hell is that shed doing? I just went up and walked around. That's me. They're wandering around. I don't understand, like, why they got a shed there. Who the hell is going to go up there besides me? Who the hell is stupid enough to go up there besides me? Like, no matter where I look, all I see is people's fingers and eyeballs and everything, because they melted, the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society and the immigrants who don't speak the language that they brought in there. You won't see Harvard there, you won't see Yale there, you won't see Stanford or Oxford. I literally crawled around through everything. I went through everything on that site. I never stopped. I went through. Think about, I'm probably the only person who's ever done this. Robots can't even go in there, they die. Well, Seth Dorn and Miles O'Brien went in there, okay. But I went in there and it doesn't look like Seth Dorn and Miles O'Brien was telling us. And the reality of it was, you know, I lost all the hair on my back in the first few minutes. I can't show you that now to prove it, but you have to take my word for it. And let's get back to Kathleen Higley. Or I'm sorry, Dr. Geraldine Thomas. She ran around everybody's houses and took their kids and injected chemotherapy with them and said, now you're going to get it, you little bugger.
Have actually stated that there will
Kill
be
you.
no discernible increase in thyroid cancer at the doses seen in the population.
The dose is seen in the populations. So her whole ideology, and it's coming up really good for the next bit here now, is...
To help them understand. The doses are extremely low.
Really? Really? The doses are extremely low. Let me split that for 1 second. 120. Let's see what I got here. What did I leave off the last time? I wonder. Who knows? Up to 1 billion becquerels of iodine 131, but just 10 times more 132, 30 times more 133, 31 times more 129 with a 15 million year half-life. We had 220 million becquerels per liter of rainwater per liter in Canada from Fukushima, but there's no dose there. Chernobyl, 1/3 size, 30% meltdown, stopped after 10 days. 3 million children with permanent disabilities. That's Kofi Annan 2000 at UN. Child's risk of cancer from radiation 10 to 100 times higher. Remember that one up here. Under 3% of the children at Chernobyl. So her studies are not going to talk about any of that from Chernobyl. Thyroid abnormalities in 55. She blames it on more testing or sophisticated equipment. That equipment was calibrated on other prefectures. And now she's editing those studies. She's the one who's editing those studies coming up. You'll find out more about that. Fukushima girls 3 times more. 79% more medium-sized than boys. Over 35% of the young had tested thyroid. She talks about her studies that she's edited herself, like all that is on her webpage that I was showing you earlier. So just 0.8% of the children in 2001, the Japanese control group had thyroid. She doesn't bother mentioning that, see? 36% now in Fukushima. What her job is to downplay it. Twice as many thyroids. Human embryos in the US likely bioaccumulating radioactive iodine. Yeah, because there was so much. I'm not going to try to cover all of it now. Or am I? Significant rise in cancer risk within 5 years after exposure. And just we'll come back to that stuff now right away, but cancer is the last one that shows up. There's 1,800 diseases that show up before cancer. Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes in particular. You should be looking for that, not the others. Thyroid, heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, adrenaline glands. Here we go. We're back on track. Let's go.
You have more of a dose if you're how many smokers do we have in this room?
Right, and she's probably going to talk about polonium-210.
You smoke if you're an average smoker, whatever an average smoker
So more radiation if you're from smoking is what she's going to make right now. Here we go.
is. You take in about 13 millisieverts a year of radiation from the smoke you inhale because there is polonium-210 in cigarette smoke.
Shit, you pie holes. Well, polonium-210 is not from a chain reaction. This is nature. It's like potassium-40 in your water, say. It's irrelevant. That stuff is homeostasis with your body. The polonium-210, the excess exposure to it is from the fertilizer, and it shouldn't have been there in the first place. This is how they get rid of their waste, is they put it in. Now, the thing about cigarettes, got 7,000 chemicals. So you're not worried about the polonium-210, you're worried about the 7,000 chemicals in your cigarette.
We're talking at doses way lower than that.
She's saying Fukushima doses are lower than what you get from a cigarette. So as soon as you hear that, you know this is disgusting, pathetic. But you got to look at her degrees. You got to look at all where she's working. You got to look at all the cancer victim that goes through her hands.
Yeah, we're worrying about them far more than we do
that's
about the
what I'm
doses
worried
from smoking.
So you
Justin McCurry from The Guardian. Jerry, it's the second time today I've asked you questions. So.
Second time, and he still doesn't know nothing. He's asked all kinds of experts before this. He still doesn't know nothing.
Apologies for that. I mean, we quite often read that there is no scientific consensus about the long-term effects or the health effects of long-term exposure to relatively low levels of radiation. And
okay, let me split that right there for a second. And so the consensus is Dr. Raymond Gilmany. And the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands worldwide of these Dr. Raymond Gilmany spent 35 years torturing dogs, never tried to cure the dog a single time, ever, under any circumstances. So he done dogs' applications of human exposure. compounds in dogs. And see, that particular way of showing you the screen, I don't know how to make it smaller. Sue me. And the Geiger counter is holding up the other screen that I would normally use to make this a little bit smaller. But that's okay. Toxicity of inhaled plutonium dioxide. This is from a chain reaction that he's talking about. And it killed all the animals, 144 dogs. 144 dogs. Tumors, lung, skeletal, liver, beginning about 3 years after exposure. All the dogs died. These findings in dogs suggest similar dose-related biological effects could be expected in humans exposed. Now, in Fukushima Prefecture, breach of containment of reactor 2. Like when you look at the reactors in Fukushima, look at this. How are you going to shoot murons through that when there's no core there and there's no fuel pools full of reactor cores? 10 years cores are not sitting there, see? Think about the damage that went through these areas, the detonations. Let's keep going back to that stuff here because we get down here, Dina. Man, I got too much on my computer, and it's just more every day. Keep going. Here we go.
You know, I'm confused as to whether that's the case or not. So if you could say a few words about that, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. So all the studies on low dose radiation that they cite are based upon a single minute exposure to a human. But what you don't bother using when these questions come up is all the studies on beagle dogs and beagle puppies by Dr. Raymond Gilmedy, for starters, from Loveless Respiratory Research in New Mexico. They're still killing beagle dogs and beagle puppies 35 years later. And never ever had a dog that didn't die. Everything died for 35 years. So then there's thousands of these Dr. Raymond Gilmedys out there using man-made radiation to kill animals. Never uses none of them. What they do is they take natural radiation and say they increase the natural radiation, not man-made radiation. That's the key words. She is trying to muddle the water on those words.
So I think there actually is quite a lot of scientific consensus around the effects of low dose, sort of
cigarettes.
Low, long, protracted dose.
That's why she's never been over to the engineering department, didn't know it existed. Even though she'd done studies on radiation, never bothered consulting them.
You have to remember that actually we're all exposed to radiation, whether we like it or not.
No, we're not. Whether you like it or not. I don't like it. So she's going to talk about natural radiation over and over and over. You're surrounded by natural. First, you're going to start off with the sunshine. We don't have a limit on sunshine. No. The radiation from the sunshine is good for you. Your body, you're acclimated through genetic superior selection. The stuff from a chain reaction is why we have terrorist laws, why we have nuclear waste sites, why we're trying to build a repository.
We can't avoid it. It's a bit like saying, you can't expose yourself to sunlight.
See, that's a horrible. So all those degrees and all those positions and being a professional and everything else, how can she sit there and start saying what she's saying right now? How is that possible? How could she do a study about it on top of that? And why is she getting airtime? And why hasn't anybody ever been able to challenge her? Because the whole industry is full of these crazies. This is why we're all dying, and they murder us at the hospital. She's one of them. She murders people every day at hospitals with chemo. This is what she does for a living. You think of the hangman? Got nothing on this type of person.
Sunlight causes melanomas. There's an extremely good correlation between the amount of sun you're exposed to and the...
We're not talking about sunlight. We're talking about man-made radiation from a chain reaction, like Dr. Raymond Gilmedy is talking about with the beagle dogs and beagle puppies. With all the degrees and all the accolades she got and all the positions she holds and held and is now oversight and chair of this and chairperson of that board with cancer victims and thyroid victims and peer reviewing those studies, how can she sit here and say what she just said?
Damage it does to your skin and your likelihood of getting melanoma.
We're
all exposed to radiation. We don't try and set a safe limit for sunlight.
No, because it's got nothing to do with a chain reaction. Why do we give them billions of dollars every year? Why do you even exist and have that job if not for the fact that radiation is dangerous?
Note, but we do keep banging on about this safe limit that we need to set for radiation.
Keep banging on about it? And who's we, by the way?
Coming over on the plane this morning, I got a dose of 0.07 millisieverts.
If you ingest radiation or man-made radiation, it's in your food or in your water, like it is throughout North America and Japan, on top of that. worse in Japan, but North America is brutal what happened here. This is brutal. We have an extinction event in the Pacific Ocean because of Chernobyl. That's why she's doing what she's doing. Without a conscience, flying down on an airplane somehow is equal to a dirty bomb. Flying on an airplane right now is more dangerous than being in Fukushima. I'm not kidding you.
Just getting from here, from London this morning. We can't avoid radiation. We're here. We're a species that's lived with radiation all of our generations. Not all of just our lives, but all of our generations.
It's called homeostasis. Your body regulates it like a thermostat regulates the temperature in your house, or like cruise control regulates the speed of your vehicle. As you consume the natural radiation that your body's acclimated through genetic superior selection, your body equalizes it. You can't get any more. But man-made sequesters in the organs, the muscles, the bones. And you can read it with a Geiger counter. You can't read natural stuff with that Geiger counter. That's reading man-made radiation. That's the point of a Geiger counter.
If radiation at low doses was that damaging, we would not be a successful species and we wouldn't all be here.
Now she's claiming that if radiation was bad over the millenniums, we wouldn't be here. But nuclear has only been here for 70 years. Yeah? And the correlation, you got 6 times more breast cancer if you live within 15 miles of a nuclear power plant. And you got 22% of deadly leukemias in children if you live within 15 miles of a nuclear power plant. But if you were to go to the encompassing, say, 50-mile zone minimum, and then look at stuff like diabetes and Alzheimer's and dementia and autism, you would really get a handle on why nuclear is frightening. But this lady is the most frightening thing imaginable because she holds all these degrees and all these accolades. Let me split it right there and we'll come right back to that. This is what makes her so frightening. Is that. This is horrifying that that person has worked anywhere of these places and that these places are full of these people. These places only hire and only let people sit there and destroy the world as we know it. She's sitting on all these boards, reading all these peer-reviewed studies.
Radiation has probably made our species what it is.
Not from a chain reaction. This is why we have terrorist laws. This is why we have nuclear waste. This is why we spend billions of dollars a year. This is why we have, laws against dirty bombs. This is why we're in so much trouble. It's because you exist, because you hold those positions, because you hold all those jobs, because you're the oversight, you're the alleged checks and balances, when you're actually batshit crazy. But worse than that, you're a murderer because you're injecting people with chemotherapy, and you love it. You thrive on it. You do it to animals all your life, now you're doing it to humans.
And we don't seem to be able to accept that.
That everybody dies when you give them chemotherapy. So what she's trying to do is spin that we've been here dealing with natural radiation, which is 160 emitters that can't mutate a fruit fly, versus the thousands and thousands that come out of a chain reaction. Every one of them, every single one of them, have the ability to destroy chromosomes and DNA minimum. But if you sequester them in your body, they over 10, 20, 30 years, you get a cancer. Is the last one to show up, cancer. Your body's attacking it for 10, 20, 30 years, trying to build a tumor around it with white blood cells. She knows everything I'm saying. Sitting there now, snacking on something, mocking me with her students, ridiculing me in the comment section, trying to humiliate me, trying to look for dirt on me to come out and say, oh, Dana's not, don't even have this, Dana don't have that. And then look at my degrees. Who are you going to believe? Well, just look at the actual facts. That nobody can debunk the things I'm saying, but I can debunk everything.
Yeah, we accept radiation by going and sitting in spas and breathing in radon gas.
The facts.
We
accept radon gas. Who cares about radon gas? We're acclimated to it through genetic superior selection like everything else on the planet. The whole universe is in harmony with this. The stuff that is natural is not going to hurt a fruit fly. Everything man-made has the ability to give you autoimmune deficiencies, and up to 1,800 of them.
Radiation when we go in to have a CT scan or an X-ray.
So these are just useless comparisons. These are horrible, unimaginable, on your back kicking and screaming, nuclear is good, nuclear is safe, nuclear is too cheap to meter, parables that have no parables. That an X-ray and a chest scan, you turn it on, you turn it off. You ingest a radioactive isotope in your body, you take the Geiger counter, and every second it goes beep, 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 for a couple of decades, and then a tumor forms, and you have a tumor in your body, a cancer. But at the same time, it's irradiating, killing all the DNA and chromosomes all around your body. It's pulsing. It's killing the chromosomes, the DNA, the sperm counts in your body because it's sequestered in your muscles and your bones and your organs. If it's in your bones, it's mutating stem cells. That's why you see these vicious leukemias.
We have this very strange relationship with the term radiation.
You have this very strange relationship with this planet where you inject people with chemotherapy and go home and eat something, where you don't have any moral issues about killing everything in your way to get where you're to, no doubt, where you most likely terrorize and terrify any student you've ever had.
Almost as if we can't accept something that's come from an accident, but it is quite okay for us to be exposed to actually quite considerably larger doses in some parts of the country.
Like the natural radiation that might be elevated compared to the stuff that you happen to be living in is still fine. There's no abnormalities of cancer living where there's more natural whatever. We're acclimated to it through genetic superior selection. It's called homeostasis. We can't accumulate anymore. This is the biodiversity of life on the planet. It all works that way. It's called homeostasis. And homesis works in that principle, but that's something that plays out over millions of years, not out over 10, 20, 15 years in the laboratory. Not something we can replicate over. We need millions of years to replicate it. Homesis, where it's good for you. But that's because everything in the universe is acclimated to this 162 natural emitters that don't mutate anything, except over millions of years.
I used to get told off for mentioning Cornwall when I was doing BBC interviews, and the Cornish tourist authorities were not very happy with me. But there's an awful lot more radiation in some parts of my country.
No, there's not. That's natural radiation. Who cares about that? It's irrelevant. It's got nothing to do with the conversation. You got all these degrees. You got all these accolades. You got this amazing diversity of education and knowledge and people that you work as a sitting professor, and you sit there and you tell people, the media in Japan, that's the Japanese press club, and then all the people that's going to go there looking for information, you're going to show them all these accolades and all these degrees and all these positions and all these responsibilities and claim that you somehow have the moral high ground. But yet come out and tell everybody bald-faced, unimaginable lies, just embarrassing to everybody that ever liked you, embarrassing to your friends, your children, your family in particular. You're an embarrassment to your neighborhood. I don't know how, if people understood what you were actually doing on this planet, do you think you could exist? If people understood that you were nothing but a disgusting parasite feasting up on the vulnerable in the hospitals with cancer, they'd take your chemo. Shut up. Bye-bye time for you. You can't say that out loud, but that's what you're feeling because that's what you're doing, and you got the education to know better, that no one survives your chemotherapy, only 2%. They didn't even have the cancer. It's horrific what she's saying to us tonight. I'll get arrested again for saying that.
Than areas of Fukushima now. And in fact, I think the British Embassy did a cricket match.
But she's allowed to go through and murder all these people. She's allowed to lie. She's allowed to pretend that there's no issue. Therefore, there's no issue anywhere else.
Recently, a year ago, I suppose now, with Tohoku 11. And in actual fact, the readings on the dosimeters would have been higher if they'd been playing that match in Aberdeen.
Rather than Fukushima. But look at all the positions. Where's the sanity to this? Where's the good people? Where's the good guy coming out and saying, hey, we got to get her removed? Where's the professor standing out and saying, this is outrageous. She has worked at all these jobs. She knows everything she's saying is an absolute positively 100% lie, that she's a murderer, obviously. If she's willing, if she got all those degrees and all this unbelievable history, and she's taking care of cancer victims and giving them chemotherapy, we know it kills everybody. What else can you call her? I don't care if you arrest me again.
And Keith will tell you that. He's from the north of
She's
Scotland.
a murderer.
So
the worst type.
Why do we have this sort of idea in our mind?
She's worked so hard to be that murderer. She got so many degrees to be that murderer, you can't even wrap your mind around what it takes to achieve that. She's done so much work and done so much field work to be that murderer. You can't even imagine what it took for her to do that. For it to do that.
Means that we have
stopped
to avoid
being a human
exposure
a
to
long time
radiation
ago.
when we can't avoid it anyway. We're all exposed to it.
You can't avoid it. We're all exposed to it. And so why should you worry about the stuff from a nuclear accident is what she's doing. This is how crazy the nuclear industry is. This is how out of touch we are with what they're doing to us. We take our loved ones to a hospital where we let something like that get close to our loved ones, inject them with something, and that's the end of our loved one. All day, every day, that's what she does for a living. That's what she teaches her children, her students to do. That's what she propagates out in all of her lectures. That's what you should do. Bring your loved ones to me. All night long. You killed 10 yesterday, you only got 4 today.
The water I'm
Crying
drinking
herself to sleep.
has radiation in it.
Yeah, it's homeostasis. Your body regulates. You can't get any more potassium-40 out of it than your body already has in it. Why are you doing that? I thought you had an education. I thought you were a human like everybody else.
And that's a natural radiation that comes from the earth.
Yeah, it's got nothing to fucking do with this. You creepy, disgusting monster from hell. It's time for your people to, like, UK needs to oust this. Imperial College, you might as well fucking, like, fire everybody, gut the place and burn it to the ground like it was a Catholic orphanage.
So why do we have this problem with it? A small amount of radiation is not going to do us any harm.
Look, Dr. Raymond Gilmedi studies. We got study after study showing a single atom in your body will cause a tumor, particularly if it's coming from a chain reaction. Is all we're talking about. We're not talking about nature. We're talking about chain reaction. She's talking about nature to fucking drive me nuts. She done it on purpose. She knew Dana would find it, and Dana would go crazy. Then they'd be like, I can't take it anymore.
And I think there is a very good scientific consensus that says that.
That you're fucking batshit crazy?
There's an awful lot of rubbish science that is produced as well. And don't think scientists
You see that grin that time?
will always tell you the truth.
Why did you throw that one in there, I wonder? Pains of conscience?
There is an awful lot of rubbish that gets put into the scientific.
Every fucking word out of your mouth, wherever you go and every media that ever quoted you is rubbish. But dangerous rubbish. Viciously, violently, thuggery rubbish. You're a murderer. 100%. You'll murder so many with that needle. Here, get your chemo. You gotta get chemo. Yeah, that'll cure little Timmy. Little Sally, yeah. Oh, she's gorgeous. You bring her in tomorrow morning. We'll get rid of that yellow hair right quick.
Literature, which is poorly controlled,
That's that
poorly
person you're looking at. That's what
researched,
she
no
does.
control
She doesn't do that out loud to the children. But I bet you she sounds like that.
groups, and so incorrect conclusions are drawn.
See, everybody's wrong except for her. She's right. That's why she gets big bucks. That's why she got all those jobs. That's why she has all those positions. That's why she's down there in Japan. She flew in that morning. She got more radiation on the flight in than anybody ever got at Fukushima. Yeah? Look at it. Look at what she does for a living. Look at all the people that collaborated with her. Right? Go look at all of them. They're frighten the shit out of you. What they're up to, they're no better. Anything she's ever touched is diseased. Internal committees, external committees. You got any idea how hard this person works to murder your loved ones? To hold on to that position and keep murdering them? To she's treating you like an idiot in the video. What more evidence would you want? Look at the degree she got where she knows everything she's saying is not fucking true. Now, Dana, you're swearing, Dana. We're going to call the cops to get you arrested again. Exciting people, Dana. Look, if that was your loved one that was died out of her hands, you'd be giving me a thumbs up right now, I can assure you. Because you'd get it. You'd understand what that monster done to your loved one. Why are you allowing her to continue to do what she's doing? Why are you allowing her to continue to have all those degrees? Why are you allowing her to murder you the way she's doing it to and teach other people to do it to you? Why are you allowing her to peer review the studies where people are showing the problems and then this one comes out and blames? Well, you get more radiation flying there than you would anywhere else. You get more radiation from a chest X-ray than you would anywhere in Fukushima. You get more radiation from the water you're drinking or cigarettes than you would from anything else on the planet, than any nuclear accident ever on this planet.
But I think the evidence speaks for itself. We're all here.
Yeah, not much longer.
There was a small study that was set up using the same ultrasound equipment and the same
talking
skilled
about thyroid
group of
study?
medics doing this, because a lot of the results come from the skill of the people operating the equipment and the technicality of the equipment themselves. And they actually found that the frequency of thyroid tumours and thyroid nodules was exactly the same. In fact, it was slightly lower in Fukushima Prefecture.
Slightly lower. Well, guess who done the study? Who reviewed it before it got released? Who edited it before it got released?
Than it was in the other three prefectures they
released
looked at.
yet.
But the caveat to that was only about 4,000 individuals who were studied.
Yeah, and we have a pre-Fukushima studies. I just showed you earlier, 0.8% of 0.8 of 1% had thyroid in Fukushima pre-accident.
And that's not a big enough control group really to draw strong conclusions from.
Was that published?
I'm reviewing it at the moment. They,
I'm reviewing it. I think she choked on herself that time. But that lady absolutely frightens me. That frightens me. Okay. Now, she was explaining how there was a control group. We're through it. But there's one more piece here. She was explaining how there was a control group, 51 minutes into the video. And I thought this clip here really explained a lot. We'll just play it.
have a hell of a lot of problems explaining what you find. If this was an animal experiment, there is no way we would have set it up in this way. But we do have a tendency of doing this with human subject research, which I think actually really doesn't help us. I think there was a golden opportunity.
Really doesn't help us. It doesn't help us because your brain starts to think maybe what you're doing is bad.
Opportunity to set up a control group. And I would have stuck by that, apart from a conversation I had with one of the mothers in Fukushima, whose own child had gone through the screening program. And I said to her, you know, one of the things that we should have done was to set up a control group. And she said, you know,
remember, there was a control group from 2000 I showed earlier.
having been through it myself, I would never want to put another woman through what I've been through. So you have the stress of the control population also having to go through the same medical examinations, and we all know what it's like. If we're honest, if a doctor calls you in and says, I want to give you a CT scan or an ultrasound scan, we are all worried. We can't avoid that. That's just us being human.
That's her saying she feels like a god every time she done that to somebody. And she, you bring Tim in here, I'll give him some chemo. We'll cure that little cancer in that little bugger. He won't be riding any bikes.
So I think
it
should have been done.
But
I think you are stuck between
like, I'll fucking murder you, boy. And she gave me chemo. Or she taught her students
a rock and a hard place, because you're damned if you do it.
That's
and
her
you're
personality is all I'm saying. Damn if you do and you're damn if you don't. So she had pains of conscience, allegedly. I'm not... Look, whatever you want to call this person, is not a representation of the human species. If you're from another planet and you're watching this, don't judge humanity based upon the nuclear mass murderers. And this one is a mass murderer. Look at it. I mean, when you look at the degrees and the education she actually has, right? You can imagine the agony she has caused people when everything she just said is a provable lie. But it didn't stop there. I can go on for another 2 hours with the videos that she done, right? You know, when she talked about Fukushima.
Well, in terms of the short-term health risks, the Japanese government did the right thing in moving the population.
Why would you even bring that word up when iodine-131 is actually a tracer? It meant everything else came there. If iodine is there, there's no short-term risk.
Way, because
it's an invention.
The most dangerous bit about it, if you like, was the iodine, which has a very short half-life. Oh. So within 8 days, half of the iodine release will have decayed.
Right, so this person is truly a monster. She never bothered telling you iodine is the tracer. She's the expert. She's the radiological protection officer. She's on this board and this chair and that chair. She's everywhere. She's in your face. Your loved ones got cancer in UK, then she screwed you for sure along the way. Right? Look at the studies that this is what she does professionally. She takes all the studies, makes sure the truth never gets out. That wasn't supposed to happen. I'm supposed to come over this one here. Her job is to make sure the truth doesn't come out. Her job is to make sure everybody that encounters her is much stupider than they ever would be. And then if they repeat it, everybody they ever touch or come in contact might be stupid too. But she's actually a murderer. She's actually the worst thing that's ever happened to anybody with cancer. Anybody, and she's affected so many people because of her studies that she's got a study out there. I mean, there should be a paywall for her studies, period. Anything that she ever allowed, if we can't get rid of her, any studies she puts out should be on a paywall. No one should have access to it. It should be like $50,000 to go read it. But what you should do is put her in jail, and you should convict her while she's in there, and then put her on death row for all the murders she committed in her career, and for all the harm that she continues to do with all the accolades and the boards and the degrees and the people she hung out with. No one's ever held her account. No one ever said, wait a second here, you little crazy commie, you mass murdering freak, you creep of the nation. How can you ever wake up and look yourself in the eye when you're that person? She probably beat every mirror down in her house because she got sick of looking at her into her own eyes and understanding that she's a monster, but people like her because they don't know any better, and people treat her with respect. She must just like, they don't know I'm a monster. They don't know I'm a monster. That moo outfit I wear hides the monster of her. And see, I resolve down to even stuff like that. It's an ad hominem, I understand. It's said because I know she's so arrogant. She's so full of herself. She feels like she's so positioned that nobody could ever get to her. I got you, didn't I? Yeah, got you good. Go get the police to arrest me. I'm in Powell River, British Columbia, Canada. Name's Dana Durnford. You can look me up to nuclearproctologist.org to get more information to do that. You can also donate there for anybody that can donate. I got to go to court again. I'm broke, and that's expensive. A couple of theories for calling out another lawyer that is using a slap lawsuit version of a judicial version of it to bankrupt me, and has succeeded in doing that. And that, I put up the good fight every day, and I don't want to go away. I want to get bigger and better at it, and I want to be able to put together a real operation, come out and challenge these people and hold them accountable. And that's pretty high hopes and dreams, right? And to call a lawyer that's an obvious lawyer, but a dangerous one, one who has access to our loved ones and who is a victimizer in every sense of the word. This is a predator, a serial predator and a serial murderer, and a proven one at that, who lies for a living. And these are very dangerous people. Please donate at the Nuclear Proctologist. Please donate. And you can donate also at PayPal, danadurnford@hotmail.com. Remember, I'm the lighthouse out there. Wait, I'm flashing that light. And that's what I'll continue to do. It's what I'm good at. It's what I understand that has to be done. I just wish there was more people like me. Even one would be pretty cool. Then I could probably take a break. Right now, we got to keep the truth rolling. Fukushima is an extinction event. Look up my documentation at nuclearproctologist.org.